My name is Maoli. I'm one of the senior princes of the Everlands in West Africa. You may not have heard the name Ever before, so let me explain it to you now. When you go back in time about 150 years ago to a strip of land in West Africa that was once called the Slave Coast during the time of the transatlantic slave trade, you will notice this area stretched from the Volta River in Ghana through Togo, the Republic of Benin, formerly Dahomey, and to the city of Lagos in western Nigeria. So the geographical area these four countries now occupy was once one territory before the Europeans met in 1884 in Berlin, Germany, to define their trade zones, and as a result, they divided the African continent amongst themselves. This strip of land from the Volta River in Ghana through Togo, the Republic of Benin, and southwestern Nigeria was known then and even now to the inhabitants as Evernyigba, or as we say in English, Everland. And the people who occupied this stretch of land were then and are still called Ever. This was the original name of the people who lived on this stretch of land from Ghana to Nigeria. But following the advent of colonial rule in 1884, the name morphed into Ewe. This happened because the V sound in the name Ewe does not have an English equivalent. Therefore, the colonial masters substituted the letter W for the V sound in the name Ewe. This gave birth to the name Ewe, which is a totally different name. Ewe is the name of a female sheep, and so it is insulting to call the people by this derogatory name. Our name is Ewe, not Ewe. The name Ewe is an ancient name that goes back thousands of years, and it is mentioned in the Bible. The first time this name is mentioned in Scripture is in the Torah, Genesis 14, verse 13. There we read, "And a fugitive came and told Abram the Hebrew." The word rendered as Hebrew here is translated from the Hebrew Eyi Vo Ra and spelled in English as IVRI, which translates as ever. So when you insert the right word in Genesis 14 verse 13, it will read, "And a fugitive came and told Abram the Ever." If you read the script from the Dead Sea Scrolls, you will not see the word Hebrew, but rather the name Ever. This is the name that is now being pronounced as Ewe, which is the incorrect pronunciation of Ever. The name Ever is the true name of the ancient Israelites, and it began with Abraham, as we saw in Genesis 14 verse 13. Okay, so now you may be wondering, if the name of the Israelites is Ever, how did it become Hebrew? Where did the name Hebrew come from? The word Hebrew is an English rendering of the Latin word Hebraicos or Hebraic. That is the simple, straightforward answer. But the more detailed explanation starts with the ancient Greeks' first encounter with the Israelites. The Greeks wrote the name of the Israelites, Ever, as Evereki or Evreka in Greek. Later, when the Romans took over as world rulers from the Greeks, they translated the Greek name Evreka or Evreki into Latin as Hebraicos or Hebraic. The name Hebrew is a derivative of the Latin word Hebraicos. 2,000 years ago, Judea became a province of the Roman Empire, which had Latin as its national language. All the literature people wrote and read was written in Latin. Those that were not were translated into Latin. During the translation of the Torah, the name Ever, which the Greeks pronounce as Evereki or Evereka, was translated by the Romans into Latin as Hebraicos or Hebraica or Hebraic. But as you can see, this was a great departure from the name Ever. Hebraicos and Ever are so far apart that you can't see any similarity between the two names. Nevertheless, this was now how Ever was pronounced in Latin. The Romans ruled the world in those days, and what they said and did was what mattered. So sadly, the real name of the Israelites became lost, and the Latin name Hebraicos became the official name of the Israelites and their language. Fast forward, following the Reformation in Europe, led by Martin Luther and later by King Henry VIII of England, translation of the Bible into English began. But sadly, these translations were from the Latin version of the Bible and not from the original language. So instead of using the original name, they translated the Latin name Hebraicos into English as Hebrew. At this stage, the name Ever had undergone multiple translations. So what we had now was a name that was far removed from the original name Ever. So now back to West Africa. Without the artificial boundary imposed by the Europeans, what you have from the Volta River in Ghana through Togo, the Republic of Benin, formerly Dahomey, and to the city of Lagos in western Nigeria is what we call Evenigba, which means Everland in English. But remember, Ever translates as Hebrew. Therefore, Everland means the land or the homeland of the Hebrews. We used to be one people speaking the same Ever language. But because of the current artificial borders, we are separated into many countries. Plus, and this is important, almost all the victims of the transatlantic slave trade were our relatives. This is why our land was called the Slave Coast. This means their descendants in North and South America are also our relatives. They are all Ever, or the Hebrews in exile. So who says the original Hebrew language is lost? Our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Moses, etc., all spoke the Ever language. We, their descendants in West Africa, still speak the Ever language. Now, these are some of the things you will read in the Call to the Hebrew series you are looking at on this page. It is very exciting stuff, so I'll encourage you to get your copy and start reading. Thank you for your time.